Fantastic. Couple more questions here. How do you think technology has changed the way that people in your generation interact with one another versus older generations?
I think in ways we are more connected because we have, our generation, we have cell phones. We have all of this technology, not just phones, but we're able to, pick that up and have hours-long conversations with people who are across the country. I think technology, from a communication standpoint, has also been huge in allowing people to find others that have similar interests. So, if you're interested in this specific subgenre or even just like a specific book, you can find an entire community to have those conversations with. Whereas, without technology, you're going to maybe be unlikely to find those connections in person. So I think it's opened a lot of doors and meeting people that you wouldn't have met otherwise. But I think it's also made us less patient. We kind of expect that communication immediately. We expect to have all of this information ready to go at a moment's notice because we do. And I think we're generally less, patient with each other and in those conversations because we have this technology. So good and bad, I think, on both sides.
Thank you. These are a couple reflective questions, so just give me a heads up on that. Do you think technology has brought people closer together or created more distance overall?
It's, that's a really interesting question. I think that it's, not to use like a cop-out answer, it's done both in some ways, because I think it has driven us closer together in kind of the ways I previously mentioned, in that we have the ability to talk to anyone across the world instantaneously. So we have all of those opportunities for connection. So in that way, we should be more connected to those around us because we're able to, send them a message and get an immediate response no matter how far apart you are. But at the same time, I think we've been more distant in person where, I feel like I see, not only in my own age group, but also younger, they're less aware of how to interact with one another. When you're in person, sometimes our conversations become stilted, especially after, the pandemic and online learning and seeing, the aftermath of that in schools and life in general. It became clear, especially in kids, how they were, less able to just have those kind of natural conversations. And, they learn and you grow, but I think that we have more opportunities for connection, but because, maybe we're too busy texting that person around the world rather than, sitting down and having a conversation like this.
Yeah. And, there's something to be said about, that face-to-face interaction there, and how, there's times where people actually crave that thing where they hey, let's put our phones away, let's have a night where no one's on their phones and everyone's just there being in the moment. I think that's something that people tend to
absolutely. When we have this communication at our fingertips, it also means that it's really hard to step away. You're always able to respond to that message. There's no, leaving the, leaving that work drama at work or at school or, wherever it is. You bring it with you into your home, into wherever you are. So you have all of this, information at your fingertips, there's going to be good and bad communication. So it can be positive, nurturing influence, and it can be negative. So I think that really encouraging people to step outside of their comfort zone and to sit down and have a conversation with someone. And I found you will have a lot more in common with someone when you sit down and have an open and honest conversation than maybe you think you would. And having the chance to really engage with the people who are around you. You'll learn about their experiences and their connections, and you'll have that face-to-face interaction that I think we all do crave, no matter how much we are glued to our phones.
Thank you. And last question here. What role do you see technology playing in communication 5 years from now?
I think 5 years from now, I think artificial intelligence is taking over a lot of things. I use it to help revise emails. So if I'm using it to revise emails, it's already getting incorporated into messaging apps and things like that. So I think we'll see that those kind of basic communication skills will lessen, and just generally, especially with younger people like the rising generation. I think the technology skills, while maybe communication may go down, technology, tech savviness and so on will increase. I think we'll be able to utilize that technology more. But if we were able to sit down and have the conversation in person, I think we'll be moving further away from that, which I think is unfortunate. And I think everything that we can do to really preserve that, just open and honest conversation, talking to somebody in person, is worthwhile and is valuable. And I hope to, really keep that as something that's the focus of just, everyday life.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. You've given an incredibly well-spoken and insightful interview, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to be here with us. So, once more, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been Sophie Grace, and we'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you.